everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of First and Ted on a Wednesday. So I based our whole stream, or at least the most of the premise for this stream, about the supposed leak of Niners Eagles in what was it, November? And
November. Yeah, it was like, and I think it was early December. I think it was like the
and
13th
then
or the 7th,
and
something
then we
like that.
find out from multiple people, thanks to Ted, that that might not be a true date for Niners Eagles, but it could be to be determined. So damn it. I wanted to base the whole show around the fact that, the Niners want to get their revenge still, which, we could still talk about. How you doing, man?
Good, can't complain. How you doing?
Pretty good. I found out my rider works now. My brother fixed the deal on the rider mower. So after the stream, I'll go and cut the lawn.
Very nice.
What's going on, Bebop? Jones, what's up, man? Maybe McNiner, what's going on? Of course, Brian Culp, Brian Culp's like death in taxes. He's going to show up. If I look a little paler than usual, it's because it's like sunny outside and it's 6:30 Eastern time. So it's like I got a lot of like light that probably shouldn't be going on down here. So bear with me. One of these days, when I'm a real streamer and not a mid carder, I'll get one of those nice cameras. But what's
You look good. You look good.
what is your take though? Still with the whole schedule thing. We could talk about first the fact it was at the bottom of the list, but we'll bring it up to the top. The 49ers are going to travel almost 30,000 miles next season, only second to the Seattle Seahawks. They have a lot of East Coast games. So I guess, is it fair that the 49ers need to do that, to travel like that, or is that just the kind of like the way that it is because they're so far West Coast?
Yeah, it's West Coast. Seattle was number 1. We're number 2. Rams were number 4, and the Cards weren't far behind that. And it's like that almost every season. The only thing we can hope for is to have a couple games back to back east, so we can maybe stay out at the Greenbrier in North Carolina like we've done the last couple seasons, and get acclimated to the time and cut down on some of the air miles, get a little more ice and practice time in, and not so many air hours, miles, days, whatever.
It's funny because like I'm older and you're a little bit older than me. I don't know if you've had any surgeries, but like anytime you have an injury, the worst thing you want to do is fly. Or if you're sore and swollen, the worst thing you want to do is fly. And this team plays such a physical brand of football, and they're going to be doing a lot of flying this year. So I feel for these guys, especially the way Kittle was explaining his methods of like after games, especially like Tuesday, how much pain he's in and stuff. And it's like, dude, that can't be easy. So it sucks. And it sucks that the league, I don't know if the league told people to take down the tweet or whatever, but I would have loved that been the actual date. When me and Raj were talking yesterday, we talked about how what the date would be, and Raj wanted week 1 because he thinks that get it out of the way. It's the first week, and I was like, I agree, everybody's healthy. I told him, but I have a feeling it's going to be around Halloween, Thanksgiving, and December-y, maybe in December, and I was mostly right. I think I said it closer to Christmas, but it's closer to the end of November. So
no, I think it was first week in December or second week. I think it was the 7th or 13th was the date that was leaked. So, I mean,
through Laura, appreciate it.
So, yeah, I mean, as far as what I would like somewhere in there later in the season. So it has playoff implications. We could be playing for the number 1 seed in the NFC. The other thing, too, is the later in the year means chances are Brock Purdy's back. Or if Brock Purdy's back, hopefully it's because Lance is playing well, by then. And so I think either way gives us a better chance to beat the Eagles than week 1, where Purdy may not be back or Lance may still need to improve by then. May not be the best version of himself of what we'll see in 2023.
Yeah, with the schedule being the way that it is, it would have worked out perfect. Say Brock Purdy was going to come in and, I wouldn't say save the day, but maybe he was possibly could play in that game, and it would be later in the season to be a lot more healthy than maybe early on. Raj just wanted it out of the way, so he wants to just do it. But it's you can savor it and wait on it. I just hope the 49ers are, healthy going into that game, that they're available. Because the worst part about the way we play is the fact that we play so physical and the injuries and how everything piles up. So that's the only part about playing them later in the year for me that kind of sucks. And I can understand why people would want to play them early on. So go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say I got in an argument with a guy, and he was saying, "No, the Eagles are the better team." And I was like, "No, we lost to the Eagles because Brock Purdy got injured. I mean, the Eagles might have won, but I think it was a coin flip." And it's like when I get unreasonable people like that who say like, "No, the Eagles are just better," I just do a poll, and the poll was like 4-1, 5-1, saying that we lost because Purdy got injured. So yeah, I want us to be healthy, 100%. I also, it's going to be a Javon Hargrave revenge game too, which I wouldn't take too lightly. I have a feeling he's going to show out versus the Eagles.
I made a video back sometime, and an Eagle fan commented on it and was like, "We broke your quarterback's arm. We concussed your other quarterback, and y'all are still crying." And I tweeted back to him, or answered back to him on YouTube, "And yet y'all still lost." Like you lost. Super Bowl. You lost the Super Bowl. So anything you could try to say to me is irrelevant. If you would have went on and win the Lombardi, I would have been like, "Listen, I'll give you your flowers mostly." If people want to trip, people want to just gloss right over the fact that we were playing without a quarterback in that game. It just wasn't fair. It was dude, I was over that game so early. You know how like everybody got on, YouTube after and everybody's mad. And I was so in a mental peace because the game was literally over in the first quarter. As soon as Purdy went out, I was like, we're done. We're done. And I was right. We're not winning with Josh Johnson. I'm sorry. People are like, well, what if we could? Yeah, you want to play a Super Bowl with Josh Johnson as your quarterback? Jimmy Garoppolo.
The NFL didn't want us to play a Super Bowl with Josh Johnson. That's why the refs were way against us too, even though we had no quarterback. The refs were calling all kinds of crazy stuff. There was all kinds of shenanigans with the clock and everything else. So the NFL didn't want us to play in the Super Bowl with Josh Johnson. I'll tell you that much.
No, I'm glad. I'd rather lose than play in the Super Bowl with that. No offense to that scrub. Real quick, say hi to we got Bebop Jones in the house. What is up? Like I said, we got Brian Culp. My favorite lady friend is in here. Laura Cat, how you doing? Thank you very much for supporting. Where are we got here? Joe E. I think like you're new or something, or maybe you've been here and you changed your name. Thank you very much for coming through. Appreciate it. Dina Harvey. Every time I see your name, I Harvey. So I have to call on you there. So thank you very much for coming through. Dana Carvey's like one of my favorite comedians of all time.
I think of Paul Harvey, and that is the rest of the story. I don't know if you ever heard that.
I know who that was.
It's on NPR or something like that, like one of the national radios.
We got Dee and BB in here. I appreciate you coming through. You're pretty new to the channel. I appreciate you coming through and supporting. I very much like views are hard to come by on YouTube. So anytime somebody comes in the stream and supports it, I very, very much appreciate it. We all do. We don't get 200 people watching us. We're lucky if we get 20. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Let's see here. So we got the OTAs coming up. May 22nd through May 23rd. May 30th through May 31st, which is right around when I go back to work. June 2nd. June 5th and 6th, June 8th, mandatory minicamp, June 13th through 15th. And then it's a whole lot of nothing to talk about till July. It's going to be interesting. The summer's going to fly by. As soon as the training camp hits, man, the summer's over. You know what I mean? You get about to me, it's like the end of May to late July. Summer to me is over because football's coming. And I don't want to rush it because I live in the Northeast, but yeah, it's gonna move on as fast. Before you know, we're gonna be talking, how Trey Lance is looking in training camp. Is Purdy possibly able to play week one? All that fun stuff. So that'll be fun. Rookies come in this Friday. Any thoughts on any of those things? Dates, players you're thinking about, you want to see? Javon Hargrave, the addition of the rookies, like anything you have your mindset on?
I mean, I'm just really excited for Robert Beal, D. Winters, and Braden Willis. Are probably my three most exciting draft picks, and they're all like fifth, sixth, seventh round, which is crazy. I mean, obviously the kicker, right? Jake Moody. Everybody wants to see what happens there. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see some of the undrafted guys. Joy Fisher, this tackle out of Shepherd that people like a lot, because we were all bummed that we didn't draft a right tackle. Maybe we got one undrafted. We'll see.
We will see. Me, it's like, okay, so we have the Hargrave edition, of course, and then you talk two defensive players that I'm interested in. D. Winters and Beal are two guys that I want to see if they can steal some starting reps this year. It's the Niners haven't addressed, and I asked this to Raj and the NWO guys, like they haven't addressed that other edge. And I thought maybe they would with all the money they saved, but maybe they have other pots on the boil, so to speak. And I guess they're going to go into camp and just have a giant competition for that other edge spot. They have a lot of guys.
There's no rush.
Drake Jackson and Beal, to me, are the two front runners of that. And then you got a bunch of just bodies behind them, guys who have underperformed.
Don't sleep on Austin Bryant.
I'm definitely going to sleep on him because he's pretty much done nothing for his career. I'm expecting zero
injuries. If he can stay healthy, he's got a real fast get off, just like Robert Beal. So I think one's had injuries and one hasn't. I think they're very similar players.
We added a defensive lineman via free agency right before the season started, or before OTAs and rookie OTAs start Friday. I probably erased it off of here. But it was a group of three guys that were signed.
Oh yeah. It was a guy who was drafted in Kinlaw's class.
Yeah, and he's a guy with some knee problems, underperforming, second rounder. To me, there's two positions where I see the writing on the wall for players to be gone. First one being Javon Kinlaw, maybe not this year, but next year. And then, of course, Ambry Thomas with the Oliver signing and the drafting of the cornerback Luter.
Luter, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I listened to Pidcock and Crocker a lot, and Crocker played DB for some time. He's pretty critical on, not critical. He doesn't give a lot of flowers to people. Like he's very like, he kind of wants people to kind of see through all the hoopla and like kind of be honest with his evaluations. Both him and Peacock had a lot of good things to say about Luter. So that would be interesting.
We took him before Beal and Winters, probably for a reason. So
yep. And I just think it's funny that I think Steve Wilks had a big influence on this draft. To me, I really feel. Do you get that same impression that like there was a big influence by Wilks on this draft, especially in the back end?
Well, I mean, he said Jair Brown was his guy, right? I mean, so yeah. That was our first overall pick at number 87 overall. So yeah, I think Steve Wilks probably did have a big impact.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. It's this time of year, it's like very you're searching for content and stuff, but it's definitely something to keep me going while I get ready for training camp. That they have a lot of like athletic guys and guys like like I said, on the edge that can, steal a lot of reps, but are they going to be productive? Like last year we had a lot of guys, but there wasn't a whole lot of production besides Nick Bosa. I mean, you had, Sands and Ebicom and all those guys, but it just no one really did anything. You know what I mean? Like we had a nice rotation of Drake Jackson and Ebicom and all these other guys. And it was just, I hope this year isn't the same. I hope it's not the same kind of thing. That's why I personally would love an edge guy. I don't know if they're just really going to squeeze the market out and get the most cheapest possible deal, even if it means signing someone like Justin Houston, which I would have no problem with, or Frank Clark. Everyone's like, no, Frank Clark. Like, yes, Frank Clark. He might be an a-hole, dude, but he can play. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, there's no rush. We can see what we got and go from there. I mean, I think, additions of Hargrave is huge. I think the addition of, I'm going to say Austin Bryant, Clelin Ferrell.
I'm interested in the Clelin
Robert
Ferrell
Beal.
pickup because I think he just underperformed. But there's a reason the Raiders took him. So maybe the Raiders just overdrafted. Maybe he plays more of a role that he was supposed to play. Maybe he wasn't a starter level guy. Maybe he is a backup. Maybe he is a rotational pass rusher. So
he's my answer. He's my answer for Ebicom. I mean, basically, I was saying we lost Jimmy Ward at the nickel. So we got Isaiah Oliver, we got Womack, we drafted this year, and Luter this year. So we got 3 options at nickel. We lost Emmanuel Mosley on the boundary. Lenore was already doing a good job, but Luter can play boundary too. I'm not going to include Ambry Thomas unless he shows us something like you said. I think he could be gone soon. We lost Aziz Al-Shire. We already had Marcelino McCrary Ball, who a lot of people like, and now we've got D. Winters. So 2 options there. We lost Gold, but we've got Moody and we've got Gonzalez. And it will be a competition, and there is a chance that Zane Gonzalez could win. And like we said, Niners Twitter will burn if Darnold wins the job over Lance or if Zane Gonzalez wins over Moody. Those are 2 kind of Niners Twitter doomsday scenarios, but they're both definitely possible. I wouldn't bet on either one, but it's possible. And then I was saying that Hargrave is a replacement for DeForest Buckner. Maybe not on run defense, but at least on pass rushing, he's maybe even better than DeForest Buckner. And then I even threw in D Ford, and I said Robert Beal and Austin Bryant are those speed rushers we haven't had since we lost D Ford. So if you look at the holes, we filled everything except for right tackle. And we were complaining about center last year this time, weren't we? And I guess you and I weren't doing shows back then, but I mean, a lot of Niners Twitter was saying center, center, center. And Brendel turned out to be pretty good. So I think we have to give them the benefit of the doubt with McKivitz. But like you said, there is money that we freed up. We freed up $10 million from Christian McCaffrey. And we had about 3 in the bank. So that takes us to 13. And when we extend Bosa, that's going to be maybe 6, 7, 8 million more. Let's just say 7. So that takes us to 20.
Bosa's cap hit will not be this year. They'll probably front loaded with a signing bonus. So the Niners could essentially make
do a vet minimum and 1/5 of his bonus, and it could be like 7, 8, 9 million for 2023. And then that way you free up about 7 more. It takes us to 20. You knock off 5 for 2023 operating costs. You got to have that money in the bank, and so that leaves about 15 mil. I think you could get an edge rusher if we need one, or trade for a right tackle, or there might be a right tackle who gets cut, or waived or whatever. So I think we'll see what we got and weigh our options as needed. Maybe if there's a run on D ends, maybe that's when we pounce. But I have a feeling a lot of those guys are going to be around right around till final cutdown, or even opening day.
I don't think there's going to be a run on edge guys. I think it might be very well towards the end of camp. You might see some additions, or during camp, like, I'm going to bring this guy in and test him out. To me, I would feel very comfortable, a lot more comfortable with that. And then, like I said with Raj, I says we got a lot of guys, but I would love to see, a guy that's, you could say he's an entrenched starter, and then you can kind of just do whatever you want behind that. Real quick, I want to say hi to Tony Culp. There can't be a Mister without the Mrs. Hi, Tony. How are you doing? Appreciate it. Hope the your little one's doing well. Bebop told me not to doubt this team. I don't doubt him, man. I'm just a negative guy. And Brian Culp says, mid-card streamer, we need to make coffee cups. Are you trying to say that we need to do a stream? I need to come on your stream, your coffee talk? Yeah, I need to do that before we go back to work, because once I go back, it's not going to people. Not going to people. I said 14 people. It's not going to fly, because I'm going to be really tired. I'm really big and heavy right now, so I need to lose some weight over the summer. So if you guys could do anything, just hope that I, stay healthy and don't hurt myself again. Me and my brother were talking before the stream of like, okay, he's like, you're not going to go to that game. You don't like crowds. I was like, because I messaged my nephew before this about the Pittsburgh game. He's like, when is it? I was like, I'll find out tomorrow. He's like, okay. My brother's like, what about the Eagles? I'm like, I'm not going there. I said they were throwing freaking stuff at players last year, players' wives, and Bonta and Shasky. And I told my brother, I was like, I won't swing on anybody by what them yelling at me. But if somebody like grabs my jacket or pushes me, I'm gonna. I looked at my brother and like, I'll probably hurt myself. He's like, yeah, you probably injure yourself. I'll probably blow my other knee out. So just not gonna do it.
We can't have that.
My job's gonna be like, yeah, I don't care. You didn't do it here. You injured yourself at a football game. Goodbye. So Aaron is a little bit of a temper if somebody puts their hands on him. So it probably wouldn't be a good situation. Plus, I'm not taking on 80,000 people. I don't have a Kamehameha blast like friggin' Dragon Ball Z. So, all right. So let's talk about the giant elephant in the room. Matt Maiocco, Ian Rapoport. You got Maiocco saying that he's not seen anybody with the type of arm talent with Sam Darnold ever since his time covering the 49ers. And you got the 49ers essentially pushing back on the narrative of Sam Darnold over Purdy and even Lance to a degree. What's your take on both of those guys? I mean, are we just all about clicks nowadays and trying to steal the thunder? Do you think there's any inside knowledge, or is this strictly just like, hey, watch me, let's a pissing contest or measuring contest where it's just like, oh yeah, you got that, I got this, so what's your take on all that?
I mean, Rapoport could be doubling down on the Mac Jones at number 3 overall, right? I think there's some of those guys. Guy from Pro Football Talk also, that said Mac at number 3 overall. And so now they're doing everything they can to discredit Lance. Like, oh, you didn't take Mac, but you still should have, type of thing, right? To try and double, triple, quadruple down on their original bad take. Matt Maiocco, he is not the type of guy to do things for clicks or to make things up. So I think that was John Lynch. And I think maybe Rapoport was John Lynch too. And, maybe it was Kyle setting it straight. I don't know.
Maiocco is like a very, very beloved 49er media member, as is Matt Barrows. You know what I mean? Those guys cover the team. They get to ask all the questions first. Say what you want about Grant, but Grant kind of pushes the envelope and asks the questions that nobody else has got the balls to ask. He's not a 49er fan, so he doesn't care. Say what you want. You hate it or not, hate it or like it, doesn't matter. Sometimes I like the fact that Grant goes out and pushes things and makes people uncomfortable in press conferences, because I think it's, even with players, like players getting all sensitive about a take about, somebody being injured all the time, or somebody not being productive, or somebody being a bad signing or a bad draft pick. I mean, it's media, man. Like, you say what you got to say. Those guys, those other guys, they're like beloved. They would never do anything to jeopardize their standing within the organization. They're like royalty.
Yeah.
Rapoport, not so much.
So I think it's something Matt heard, not made up.
Mid-card
also, there's a third data point on all this too, which was Darnold's QB coach came out and said that if Purdy isn't healthy, that Lance will be the starter. Unequivocally, absolutely stated that as a fact. And obviously, he's on Darnold's payroll, so he probably couldn't possibly be more biased than he is. But that was another one of those stories too, just to go in the list of Darnold Lance stories, interesting stories this offseason.
The Niners have had quarterback issues pretty much the whole Lynch and Shanahan era, and this year isn't any different. I saw a tweet about from Ryan Hensley about something about if the Niners could ever, something had to do with the Niners and their core, and something their core passing, and maybe they get stability at quarterback to kind of counterbalance that. Yeah, the Niners haven't ever, not since the Montana Young days, have they had really stability at quarterback ever in the last 30 some odd years. It was like this every year. It's something. It was like that with Alex Smith, and when Alex Smith got injured and Kaepernick came in, there was people that were against it. And now you got all these years later, you got, Garoppolo came on the scene, and, me, including myself, we're all like, oh man, maybe we finally got our guy, and then a couple years later, he plays in the Super Bowl and he plays like dog water in the fourth quarter, and they draft Lance, and then Lance looks like he's going to be the guy, but then Lance gets pretty much redshirted his first year. We go to the NFC Championship game, which says, oh, I guess Kyle and John were right. But then the next year, everything goes awry, injuries galore, and then we're questioning the organization again. It's every year. It's every single year. And it's a little off-putting, and at the same time, you got analysts of different types saying that it doesn't really matter who's the quarterback as long as you have Kyle Shanahan and those play callers and those playmakers around him. I disagree with that. I disagree with that 100%. Bebop says he can't wait for the Eagle home game. You can go, man. You can go. I'm not about that life, man. I'm too old. I get injured a lot if I get aggressive. So, maybe 20 years ago, I was a little ballsy. 20 years ago, I'm still a hothead, but I was a really big hothead back in the day. Oh my God. I remember there was a guy talking to one of my ex-girlfriends at the time while he was at my job. He could have freaking wiped the floor with me. And I went right up in his face and said something along the lines of like, if you don't stop talking to her, you're going to regret it. I thought this dude was going to kill me. No, he went to management and was like, Aaron's threatening me. And I'm just like, really? You're that much of a wimp? Like, come on, dude, you could hurt me bad. And you decide, I was like, not anymore. I'm not that brave anymore. I can't. I have a job and I have a mortgage to pay. So all that's off the table. No matter how bad I would love to go to a game and throw knucks with somebody, it's just, I'll let Bebop do it. He would bring his brass knuckles. Yeah, it's not happening. But let's talk a little bit. I talked to you before the stream, and I talked to my nephew. I'm going to ask you guys straight up. I'm not big with crowds, and I have a little bad anxiety, but I think it would be proper to go see the Niners when they play the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Should I do it? I'm asking the chat. Should Aaron finally go see his first NFL game and go to Pittsburgh? Ted, what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, don't even think twice. Book the tickets, go. I mean, there's nothing like going to an NFL game. And you got to go.
I've never been to one. Like the Buffalo, they play in Buffalo from time to time. Mm-hmm. And Buffalo fans are a little hairy from what because my brother's a Dolphins fan, so it can get pretty bad.
I mean, if you're worried about it, just don't wear the colors. I mean, especially if you're going to the Eagles,
don't wear the colors. Dude.
But I think you'll be fine with Pittsburgh fans. I think Pittsburgh fans are pretty cool, especially since we're NFC.
Jacket, man, I got to wear it.
especially since we're NFC, and whatnot. I just don't think it'll be that big of a deal. And it's a great stadium, Heinz Stadium, or whatever they're calling it these days. I forget what they call it now, but.
It could be Heinz. It's not Heinz Field anymore. It's something else. It was that for a while.
It's something terrible.
Bebop says he's going to Pittsburgh too. I mean, I'm pretty easy to spot. I'm large. I'm like 6'3", and I have very red hair, and I just stand out. I don't know. I have my voice is like you. Oh, that's him. That's definitely Aaron. Like Ray Romano. Like Kermit. Where is he? Oh, it's Aaron. Never mind. So yeah, you definitely.
Just try to get seats that are like, even if they're high up, they're kind of between, like 15-yard line back towards the end zone. I mean, you're not gonna get 50-yard line, I doubt.
No.
But I don't know. To me, you can get too low where you can't see anything. It just looks like a scrum, and you end up watching the whole thing on the jumbotron, especially in the end zones.
Yeah, I don't want to be too far up because then I could just watch it on television.
I know, but there's something about being there and cheering and you can see the thing about seeing the whole thing, like you don't see the safeties on television.
Says Ginger's rule. You better believe it, man.
Yeah, you don't see the coverage nearly as well on television. So that's the main thing of being at the game is you can see the whole play develop in a way.
Yeah, so you could see something. You're like, oh God, we're gonna get burned before you actually see it on TV. Like, oh, somebody got toasted.
Or like they're wide open. Oh, he's gonna get it.
Jimmy misses him. Oh, no way.
Well, no more. We don't have to worry about Jimmy. Jimmy gone.
There's a wheel route, a wide open player, and he sails it by 15 yards. Yeah.
He gone.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I'm just waiting on the date. My nephew's he's a busy kid or man. He's a man. He ain't a kid. He's gonna be 28. 28 this year. He was born in 1995. Yeah, 28. I told him I
Yeah,
was
just
like, I'm
go and
thinking of
try
like,
and
yeah, it's 4 hours away. Pennsylvania is 4 hours away from New York. So essentially, you go there. I would probably go the night before or the
got
day
it.
before. Get there, get the hotel, get some pizza or something. Domino's, whatever. Get up early, and get going on it because I gotta fight the urge. I gotta fight the urge to not ever do stuff in public because when I was younger, I was really big in going in crowds and being around a lot of people. I'm an attention seeker. I'm kind of I am a drama queen. I like being the center of attention, so I have no issue being in a crowd. Back then, now it's like I want to be ignored. But when I was younger, like if this would have been 20 years ago, I would have been like, let's do it. But now I have to like convince myself because all I'm going to be doing if I get the tickets is like, I should cancel. I don't know. I don't know if I could go.
You got to go, and you got to ideally figure out, who else is going, and maybe get tickets together. So it's like your brother, a
I
few
would
other
love to
folks,
find out if someone like I know,
like Bebop, and whoever else is going to be there.
Jason Aponte is a New Yorker. I wonder if he would go. I wonder
see if they're doing the. I mean, the thing to do if they're doing it is the John Chapman Breezy, rush, the road, whatever they call them, 49ers rush. They do pre-parties, and they all have a tailgate before the game, and then I think they try to coordinate sitting together. I mean, I tell you, they had one out here in Fremont. It was either before the Saints game or the what was the other game that we had out here that they watched? It was when all the 49ers Faithful UK folks were here. But anyway, they had this 49ers rush party in Fremont, like a Dave and Buster's in Fremont. And like Jed York showed up, man. And they met Jed York.
That would be cool.
Jed York.
If I
met,
and
I'm not promising you that for Pittsburgh.
No.
Or anything, obviously.
But for me, it would.
It's just an example of
go and finally meet some people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you got to meet as many of these folks as you can. And since you don't have home games to go to, and you're not big on air travel, then yeah, you got to bite the bullet and go to Heinz Field or whatever they're calling it nowadays. I'm gonna look it up.
Tony Kolb says, "Don't ever let others prevent you from living your life. I don't like huge crowds much myself, but I love to live life." It's something that developed over the last, I'd say, 10 years or so. I don't know. I used to be like super like hangy outy after work. Like, hey, you doing this after work? Yeah, let's go. Let's go meet up at like Wendy's or something. Yeah, you doing that? Now it's like, I just want to go home. I want to sit in my room with the air conditioner on after work, not talk to anybody.
Sucks getting old, man.
I'm so curmudgeon-y now. It sucks. That's why I'm single, because I don't put myself out there to like it's there for the taking, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm okay. But then I complain about it. Go ahead.
I looked it up, and Aaron, you just have to be sure to go to Acrisure. That's what they're called.
Acrisure?
Acrisure.
Sounds like a medical procedure that you get done on you. I need to get some Acrisure done on my knee.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Or some kind of knitting. I'm not sure.
I will post on Twitter, of course, because I live on Twitter, if I'm going. And I'll make the decision with my nephew. If my nephew's not going, I don't think I'm going to go. Because he's my nephew, and we both are 49er fans for life. And I want to share that with him. You know what I mean? He's never been to a 49ers game, and neither have I.
Give me his number.
My nephew?
Yeah.
Give me his number. You just got to call him Handsome Lad when you pick up. He'd be like, who in the world? Creep him out. Or Ladies Man. He's all Mr. like working out. He looks nothing like me. If you guys met him, you know who he looks like? For any of you in the chat, my nephew looks like Fred Warner because he's biracial, and he's part Italian, he's part this and that American Indian. So like, you're like, there's no way that's Aaron's nephew. He looks zero like him. He doesn't. His personality is a lot like mine. Like, we make fun of everybody. We drill on people. Like, look at this guy. Look at this fat ass. Just like we're bad. We're bad people. But that's just how we are. We make fun of each other too. But yeah, if you guys saw him, you'd be like, That's not Aaron's nephew. He just got some random neighbor to go with him, but it is. He's my nephew. We're both very negative 49er fans. Very negative. We are all we're super pessimistic. Like, hey, this game's going really good, but man, injury's probably going to happen. And people are like, dude. So let's talk about, let me see if I can bring them up. Let's talk about some of these league notes that we got out here. We go to Twitter. Give me 1 second.
Take your time.
We got some league notes that popped up the other day about it. I saw it on NFL Network, and I was like, I got to bring this up into the chat. So every stream I've had this week, I've done it. So you're no different. You're special, just like everybody else. Adam Schefter. So among the changes to the schedule this season, first one, NFL Black Friday game for the first time ever. I think the Dolphins are playing in it. So my brother's like, I can't believe we're going to be
Jets. Dolphins Jets.
I hope my brother's team smokes the Jets. Listen, I'm like this. I'm a Niners fan. I don't root for anybody else, right? But if I'm going to root for a team that the Niners are not to win, if the Niners can't, it's my brother's team. I would love to see the
Tua's not going to be there by
I know, but maybe he will be. Nah. Maybe he'll pull a Jimmy Garoppolo 2019 and just somehow survive the whole season. And then he'll get.
I hope he does. I never root for injuries, but I'm just telling you, I wouldn't bet on it. Don't bet your rent money, like I like to say.
Hmm.
And Aaron Rodgers got some weapons there on the Jets.
Yeah, they do. But so do
we
the
talked
Dolphins.
about that.
So do the Dolphins.
No, the Dolphins do.
They have two of the best wide receivers. They have one of the. They're going to be fast.
They're fast, but the Jets have. I'm blanking on his name now. The offensive rookie of the year last year, wide receiver out of Alabama, or was it Alabama? God, I'm like losing it here.
Yeah, I got you.
But they got a lot of good receivers. They got Lazard. They got Corey Davis. They got the fast one from KC.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. The
gadget receiver. But they got 2 or 3 good tight ends. They got 3 good running backs.
Oh yeah, they're going for it this year.
Other than O-line, I think that they got a pretty good offensive squad there. And Aaron Rodgers, I think he still has a little bit something left in the tank.
He says Robert De Niro's kids are mixed. Yeah, it's weird because I'm so pale. If you guys saw me in real life, although I get a little color, but my nephew looks nothing like me. I always tell him he looks like Fred Warner. He's like, stop, because he's got the hair. He's got he's got dreads, and it's like they're kind of tight off here, and then they kind of go like this everywhere. It looks nice on him. He's got the LeBron James beard, that. I told him for a while he looked Middle Eastern, but I said, now you're looking like Fred Warner. So, or you're gonna look like you're Tongan soon. He keeps changing. But let's go to the next one here. Says the NFL or the games don't necessarily belong to any networks anymore. All games are free agents, which I saw last year. I saw that last year. I was sitting with my brother. The Dolphins game was ending, and then I said, "He's like, what are the Niners playing?" I'm like, "Actually, they play on this network," and that network happened to be the AFC network. So I guess there maybe is not going to be an exclusive NFC AFC network, which is, I don't know, it's not really big news, but it's kind of interesting because it's always been that way, right?
Yeah, AFC was always on CBS and NFC was always on Fox, but it started to blur a little bit the last few years. And they were putting Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on the best games, regardless of the conference. And so it just sounds like we'll see more of that, which is great. I love Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. So
I actually have grown to kind of not like Tony Romo anymore, even though I love his analyst. It's just too much sometimes. It not even the analyst part, not the calling of stuff. It's the voice. Oh man, here it comes. It's just like, dude, stop. I remember when they had, what's his name? What the hell is his name? The guy that used to sit in the little booth by himself, and they would turn his table towards the crowd. He's bald. It just
real buff.
infuriatingly. Yeah, he used to play for the Bucks.
Jay Glazer?
No, Jay Glazer looks like he's about to explode at any time. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. He's about 5'3", muscles coming out his ears. He looks a little bit. It reminds me of Joe Rogan a little bit. He literally looks like if somebody pinned him, like he would just, But yeah, I forget the defensive lineman he used to play for. He used to play for the Bucks. He's an analyst on ESPN. He was just absolutely horrible watching games with. But I usually watch games on mute anyways, because I get really nervous, especially when the Niners are on the road. But if they start winning, I'll turn it on. But I just get annoyed very easily with commentators, especially if they like call Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. Oh, I'm like, that just
all the time.
That just sends me into a friggin' tizzy. Let's see here. The next one, teams can be on Thursday Night Football twice. I actually do not approve of that. I think that's really messed up. Do you think the NFL needs to think about adding another bye week if they're going to have teams play 2 Thursday night games?
Yeah, or have them back to back, so at least one's a short week, right? Then the second one, it's a full week in between. And maybe an extra bye afterwards or something, or leading up to it would be great. Yeah. One Thursday night game is bad enough. 2 is even worse. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, and the Niners always seem to have them, and they get a lot of injuries seem to happen, like a altering injury, like someone big is lost for the season. Like they get, I don't want that. And unfortunately, the Niners are considered a top team. Top teams get a lot of primetime games. So I don't know, man. Like, it's cool to be on primetime, but it's I always like the underdog mentality where like you kind of sneak up on people when you're expected to win. Those are always kind of the worst, because then everybody who's not a 49er fan sees the game and they're like, wow, you guys sucked in that game. And it's just like, ugh. You want to be like on prime time and be killing it, and just be like, yeah, that's my team. That's who I support. But it's not always the way. And then the last one is not all teams are guaranteed a primetime slot, which I think is great, because not all teams deserve a primetime slot. Just think of the Broncos last year and how freaking disgustingly horrible they were. So any thoughts on
like
any
4
of
or
those
5.
things?
I just think we'll get 5. I think we'll get the max.
You think we're going to get 5? I picked 4. I think I forgot who had the list on Twitter. I picked 4. I think 4 to 5 seems about reasonable. Monday night, couple Monday nights, a Sunday night, probably a Thursday, and then who knows with the other couple of ones. But yeah, I just think with the Thursday games, man, having an extra bye week would be great, especially for a team like us. We play such a physical brand. It takes not only a toll on the players on the other team, but it takes a toll on our players. Niners get their ass kicked by themselves a lot of times in games because they got guys that don't go down, guys that it's like, dude, step out of bounds. No. And then all of a sudden they get twisted up. And then there's, we'll be back. And then they have someone in the middle of the field and he's walking off. Like when Debo got hurt last year, he got bent over the pile and we thought is done. And then
against the Bucks.
Oh, that was bad. So Remilio Bell says, don't talk about the West. It was bad last year, and it was 6 wins. Who cares? It ended the same way last year and the year before. Don't talk about the West. Oh, he's replying to somebody in the comments because I didn't say anything about the West. Hey, I don't care if the West sucks. NFC West. To me, it's 6 easy wins, possibly. Look at the Patriots during their heyday. I don't think we're going to lose one. I think we're going to go 4-2
in Seattle.
I don't know.
I think we could sweep the Rams and the Cards. I'm predicting that.
So you're thinking 5-1, maybe? Yeah, I could see that. You were talking. It's Booger McFarland. Thank you very much. Yeah, he's absolutely.
Oh yeah, Booger.
He's like listening to somebody scrape a plate with a fork. Like it's just bad. Like, oh God, so bad. Sacktown Izzy, I love your name by the way. Beating the Rams on primetime was the best Showtime entertainment we gave out. Yeah, dude, kicking the Rams' ass anytime is good, especially in that. I feel like that with the Cowboys. Like I have two great friends that are Cowboy fans, and I love those guys to death. They're my Puerto Rican brothers from another mother, but I hate the Cowboys. Not necessarily because of the players, but because they're shoved in everybody's face. America's team, America's team. They always talk about them on First Take and this, that. And I'm just like, who cares? And then they play in the playoffs and everyone's like, do you think Dak's going to do it? No, Dak sucks, man. He's not doing anything, especially not against the Niners defense. So I don't know. They automatically always get airtime, whether they're good or bad, like every single year. And it's just so annoying. My personal thing too, and I'm going to ask you this, how happy would you to see us have a better season than both Philly and Seattle, considering we're supposedly had a worse draft than the other two?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, Seattle had a better draft, but they have tons of needs. The only real need we had for 2023 is kicker, and we got the best one in the draft. So we got tons of depth and tons of guys that might break into the starting roster, but that don't have to, right? And we got Hargrave from the
Niners
Eagles.
Got a lot of and we do. You're right. We have a lot of depth.
And everybody's talking about, Jalen Carter this, Jalen Carter that. Dude has character issues and motor issues. And, I saw a tweet yesterday. They were talking about someone else and they were saying, I have a reasonable expectation that he'll hit his ceiling because he's good character. He's a good character guy. And so then the flip side of that would be you don't have a reasonable expectation of them hitting their ceiling if they're not. And especially when they're already known for taking plays off. I could see Jalen Carter ending up a lot like another guy with the same initials, JC, Jadeveon Clowney. I don't know if I said that last week, but I've been saying
Jadeveon Clowney to me is he's a thief. Teams get enamored by his size and his potential, and every single place he goes,
it's exactly what I feel like.
And he never produces. And you're just like, you saw it, like everyone was talking about edge rushers available. I'm like, maybe the Niners go after Clowney. And I'm like, no. Why? He's not going to do anything. And he's going to be hurt all the time. I'd rather have Frank Clark, even though he's a freaking turd, because he's got a mean streak. We need a guy like that in our defense.
Playoff record for sacks in the playoffs or something like that.
Yeah, I think Frank Clark's a really underrated player. I think the Niners got the better of that when they got Frank Clark in there and they, gave away Dee Ford. The Chiefs,
they did, absolutely.
Well, they robbed us blind, but we're stupid because we were so desperate to have another edge.
We were desperate. It was a totally different situation. So Jalen Carter, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it's a slam dunk. He also showed up overweight. So let's see him lose weight. Let's see him show up. Let's see him do everything that he needs to do. And like everybody talked about Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean from last year, they did pretty much squadoosh. So I don't know. I think I probably said it last week, but somebody mentioned, I thought it was pretty funny that the Eagles are trying to prove that a college team can beat a pro team. There's always that saying, like, can the best college team beat the worst pro team, right? And so they've kind of become Georgia North because, right, they drafted Jalen Carter this year. They drafted Nolan Smith at the end of the first. Early in the second or in the third round, they drafted that Ringo cornerback also from Georgia. They went ahead and traded for DeAndre Swift from the Lions, who also went to Georgia. So there's a lot of Georgia going on in the Eagles, but there's a lot of rookies, and they look really good. Like they're all like the kind of consensus picks, like you didn't reach and all that, but still, even then, they're all 50-50 shots. So
I just don't understand how you can tell a team won a draft when you've never seen anybody play on a professional level. I hated when the Niners used to get great draft grades, and I'm just like, I don't want to hear that. I want to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, also, if it's the ones that all the draft experts agree on, then that's the ones, probably that the GMs agree on. And so you're not going to get any deals that way. The only way to do it is to zig when they zag and do something a little different. So I'm not convinced that, going after the consensus guys is going to turn out any better than the ones especially in a draft like this where there's only a few real studs in this draft, and most of them are just kind of guys, and they go real deep. That's why we got some good guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds.
Yeah, this draft this year was not. It wasn't the most top-heavy, talented draft. It was like a deep draft, but there was not a lot of like high recruit, 5-star guys coming out this past season. Like, if you look at the draft this year, when Nick Bosa was coming out and Quinnen Williams in that draft and, all that, like, it was like those guys were like surefire top 3 pick guys. Like,
and then go further back, look at Brian Allen, and even Max Crosby was in that draft. And the other Josh Allen, it was Brian Burns, from
Brian
Panthers.
Burns. People, what a deep pass rush draft that was.
Yeah, the other Josh Allen, who is still with the Jags, who's a real fine pass rusher. He's not Bosa, but he's probably one peg below. He's outstanding. So yeah, there's a ton in that draft. So yeah, I mean, I just think, and I think the Seahawks did real well. I think they did a good job with Devin Witherspoon, supposed to be a really good corner. Maybe that other corner that the Patriots took is supposed to be the other one that's supposed to be the 2 best. But I did think it was interesting that the Seahawks could have drafted either of the Eagles' 2 draft picks. They picked 5th and 20th, which was 5th was before Jalen Carter. They took a corner instead, 4 picks sooner. And then 20th, they took Jackson Smith and Jigba, maybe the best wide receiver in the draft, maybe. He's the consensus, guy that everybody thinks is the best. Before 9 picks before Nolan Smith. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think the Seahawks had some good picks. I think the center they took out of Michigan, some draft experts I've spoken with thought he was a good one. Olusegun Owatami or something like that. Literally one pick.
Will be good. I think they'll be good this year.
No, they will narrow the gap.
They still have a really bad quarterback who's not that great.
Yeah.
He had a good year last year.
I wouldn't say really bad, but yeah, he's not really good.
He's not like people can say the same thing about the 49ers,
I'd rather have him than Jimmy G, but not by much. That's what I would say.
I think I'd have a lot of players other than Jimmy G and not by much. 49er Media, when I was talking about drafts that were highly touted, he said 2017. Yeah. We drafted Solomon Thomas. We came back and drafted Reuben Foster. What a freaking train wreck. I think the only players who were any good in that draft were Kittle and DJ Jones. Right?
Right. But then 9th overall was CMC. 10th was Mahomes. 12th was Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and we ended up getting CMC a couple years later. So
I think Marshawn. I think wasn't the safety from the Chargers in that draft too? Like Derwin James. I think he was 2017 also. Yeah,
possibly. Yeah. Let's see what else.
Maybe that was 2018 when we took McGlinchey. Somebody said Derwin James. I think it's 2018. But anyway.
One of the things that was brought up that I noticed on social media today, and not today, probably the last 6 months, is the fact that the 49ers players are not over the NFC Championship game. Deebo Samuel himself stated that the Niners probably the best roster in the NFL, and that if he had to say who's the most hated team in the NFL, it'd be the Eagles and their fans. And that the Niners only lost because they had 10 players on the field. Care to comment on what's your take? Part of me is cool that they're still pissed about it, but part of me is also like, got to kind of move on and use it as fuel, but don't keep talking about it. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think they keep talking about it because reporters keep asking them, so I think I think they do have to just kind of get to a point where they just say, yeah, we've asked and answered, right? Right. We've already talked about that. We're moving on from that. But he's right. I mean, I had an argument with somebody on the timeline about it, and they tried to say this, that, and the other. I'm like, all right, look, I'm just gonna do a poll, and it was like 5-1. People were saying, yeah, we lost because we didn't have Purdy. So
we may very well have lost with Purdy, but I don't think it would have been a 31-7 game.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm saying coin flip. Like maybe whoever has the ball last wins. Maybe that's what it is. But certainly, we were not, it was like they were favored by less than 3 at home, which means people thought we were the better team, but they gave Philly the edge just because they were at the link. So, and with the Chiefs, I'd say if we got past the Eagles and Purdy was healthy and we played for us in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, I wouldn't say necessarily coin flip, but maybe 55-45 or 60-40 in favor of the Chiefs. I'd say they should be they would have been favored and they should have been favored, but not a game we couldn't have won either. Just less likely than beating the Eagles slightly.
Well, the way that the Eagles was able to move on them, I think the Niners could have moved the ball, but what they lack at quarterback, they make up for just in sheer volume of playmakers. The 49ers, there's just so many people to account for that. Even though you might have a quarterback that ain't even close to being on the same level as Mahomes, you just have just so many guys to account for. So
I know something new since last week.
Okay.
Isaiah Winstead.
Mm-hmm. The receiver that
the new receiver. Yeah. Yep. Any thoughts on him?
I don't really know what to make of an internet kind of sensation guy, because I want to know what kind of competition he went against, like how scrubby were these corners that he was going against. But it's always good to take a flyer on somebody that everybody, including the Niners, didn't pay any attention to until somebody within the building probably was like, "Hey, Kyle and John, you might want to take a look at this," because that's essentially what I feel like happened. Because
he gets real good separation, but like you said, who knows what the corners are?
Yeah, right? I would love to know who these corners were. I mean, is this like Division III? Is this like a local college? Like, where was he playing? I want to know.
It was Eastern Carolina, I think.
Okay. I mean,
so I think it's Division I.
He's not going to get any starter reps, and he would have to really show out in the preseason for the Niners to keep him. And if they do keep him, he's probably going on the practice squad to sit. He's not starting over anybody. So he has to have a great camp and a great preseason. And hey, whatever. He's go ahead.
Well, I mean, wouldn't we say the same thing for Ronnie Bell, the 7th rounder out of Michigan?
Yeah, I don't think Ronnie Bell's a lock to make the roster, to be honest with you.
No. So, I mean, I'd say maybe it's a coin flip between those two, maybe.
It's kind of small.
Yeah. This guy's taller. I think he's 6'4".
I'm a bigger fan. I'm a fan of bigger receivers. Winstead. I'm not a big fan of really small guys. But if you got enough wiggle and you can get open, which Ronnie Bell seems to have, then
apparently he likes to block too, which is obviously super huge. I don't know anything
if you're in this
about Isaiah Winstead's blocking. If anything, that would be what maybe tips my vote to Ronnie Bell. Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, we fall in love with guys during preseason, right? We fall in love with guys we fall in love with guys in like the training camp and stuff, and the Niners don't keep them, and then you really don't hear much about them after that. So you have to measure your expectations sometimes with what you see and hear from people, especially people like, remember last year, Bonta and Shasky were at training camp and they were like, "Oh my God, we have a quarterback." Cause like Trey Lance was just like, wow. But then you hear reports from someone like Jackhammer and he's just like, dude completed like 5 passes out of like 14 attempts. And you're like,
that's why I'm going to do everything I can do to get there this year for camp. Every day that's open to the public, I'm going to do my best to make it. As long as we're not out of town or something, I will be there to hopefully give some unbiased eyes to this.
I definitely would love to hear from you being there. I mean, you could put in a good word and I can get a press pass.
There you go.
That's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for the rub, man. Like in wrestling, you have a match against a really good guy and because he's popular, he gives you the rub, so to speak. Pause. To maybe get some eyes on you. So, but no, I don't know if I could be a media person. I don't. I couldn't afford to travel to California to stay in a hotel.
You'd have to move out here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'd have to work like 20 jobs just to pay rent for an apartment. So, unless I had a surefire job, like somebody hired me to, I don't know, be in a podcast over there and it made like buku bucks, like, yeah, that's not happening. So
I never know.
We pretty much nailed everything. I don't know how next week's going to work. If we're going to wait until next week to talk to schedule, if maybe we do an impromptu stream at some point. I was thinking about doing a kind of a big, not a too big of a stream, maybe like 4 people. Maybe you, Raj, and somebody else. Maybe we'll do like an impromptu schedule release stream because the NWO is going to talk about it on Monday, but maybe something happens tomorrow night. I don't know. What are scheduled release streams pretty much? There's no topics. It's just like, who do you think's winning this game? Who do you think's winning this game? What's the record at the end of the year? That's pretty much what it is, right?
Right.
If you wait 4 days, nobody's going to care. So I don't know.
Problem is, I'm out of town Friday,
Saturday,
Sunday. Yeah, going to Seattle.
So I guess we're gonna have
my wife's cousin is getting married, so I'll be up in sunny Seattle.
Larry Krueger's got the passes. Yeah, just a little bit. He's done this for a couple of years. But hey, man, great show. Like I said, it's hard to drum up stuff just this point in the year. It's like you're every time something happens on Twitter, you're like, okay, that's a topic. Like it's tough. Like when it goes to the season, it's a whole different story. Me and Bashar always talk about like it's better when the Niners lose because like there's so much more emotion. They were kicking everybody's ass last year. It was like every show was just like, yay, they won again. What does this mean? And it was just different. So, hey, everybody, thank you so much for coming through and supporting the stream. 49er Media, yeah, definitely have to work on that and get in touch with you to do a stream. My days are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. When we get closer to the season, I definitely want to do a Friday stream, a pre-game stream. So, but everybody
does good Warrior stuff too, but I know that's not of interest.
If I did Warrior stuff, maybe my channel would actually like blow up a little bit, but I don't like any other sports but football. If you would have talked to me 20 years ago, it would have been Yankees, 49ers. And if you met me in the mid 90s, it was Bulls. So I was pretty, it would have been awesome to do streams back then, but there wasn't even any internet, at least the way that it is right now. It was like dial up. So they'd have like one guest in here and he would keep dropping out or something. So, but everybody thank you so much, Ted. Once again, we killed it.
Thank you, Aaron.
And we'll see you guys. I guess we're going to see you guys next week. We'll talk schedule at some point during the week. I'm sure we can steal some views from people that are interested in that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll see you guys then. Everybody take care, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Peace.